Hello everybody. Oh, I'm trying to get the camera set up. Of course, if I sit back, I'm half out of the picture. Let's see if I can fix this. Oh, why is it backwards? Is it backwards for you? That's not good. That's not good. Can anyone tell me if the screen is showing backwards to them? Because it sure is showing backwards to me. Why is it that every time
If my man was wearing this,
it's playing an ad?
smells really good, yeah. Really sexy. Oh, that smells really good. I would use it, but
Skip the ad. Shh. We're going live now. Okay, let's see. Yes, thank you for reminding me. Well, this is going to be awful if it's backwards the whole time. Woohoo! Is the text backwards on your screen? Because it's showing backwards on mine, and that's just completely weirding me out. No, it's forwards. You can say, oh yeah, I'm looking at it mine now. Oh yeah, okay, good. All right, panic time. Because I'm looking at my camera, which is another phone, and it's backwards, and that's just throwing me. So, we're going to start on time, which is in about 4 minutes. Let's see if I can figure this out. I do not normally use PowerPoint. Let's see now. I don't want to play it because I don't want it to forward by itself. Let's see what it does. No, that's not what I want. Maybe this is what I want. But I don't want it to go by itself. Let's see. Let's see if it does. Okay. So yeah, I'm not used to doing this. I left the corporate world a while ago. So let me see if I can catch up on some of these comments here. And there is a delay. Okay, oh good. Well, there's a lot of folks here. Hi everybody. Oh, I don't know if do you really need to see me? Oh, there it went by itself. That's no good. Stop that. Okay, I'm gonna try to, nope, there it goes again. Oh, there it goes, okay. I just want to point out here that there are certain folks that are members of the channel or Patreon patrons, and those folks, their questions are going to get answered first. You know, the channel is, it's free, you can watch all the videos you want, but the folks who chip in and help make it possible for me to fly and do the videos, those are the ones that are going to get special attention from me, as they should. So some of those folks, that includes, I see Rebecca's here. Hi, Rebecca. And let's see, Oscar. Hi, Oscar. And so far, that's just it for the channel members. If you want to learn more about channel membership, there's a video about it. And probably when you go to look at any list of videos, there's this annoying pop-up that tells you to join. I can't control that. It does it to me too. That you could click that button and it'll tell you about it. You don't immediately join. You can read about it first, watch the video. The video is kind of fun. It has bloopers. Okay, let's see now. Hello from the UK, Carl. And will there be a quiz at the end? You're going to quiz me, Jim. Jim wants to know if there's a quiz at the end. I'm going to try to do this in an organized way. Hi, Brian and Deb, Sacramento. Hello, and let's see, Jennifer. Sorry, Jennifer, that you can't stay for the whole thing because it'll be, I expect it to go probably about an hour. But remember, you can always watch it after the fact, and you'll see me answering the questions and doing the same thing. So if you can't watch it live. Hi, Marka. And who else do we have here that I didn't say hi to? I said Jim, Oscar, of course. Pedro. Hi, Pedro. Andrew Bradbury. Hi. Joni Johnson and Darren Oak. And let's see, I got Jennifer already. And Josiah. Hello. And he's already asking me a question. I didn't even get here and he asked me a question. So that's not actually the topic for today. But if we have time at the end, I'll address helicopter rules. And I got 2 more minutes. I want to remind everyone that the virus is real and that when you go out, you should be wearing a mask. And if you have a problem with that and it makes you pissed off at me, sorry, turn it off. I don't really care. I just want everyone to understand that it is real and it's not just killing people, but it's making people really sick. And that's just not a good thing. So wear a mask, wash your hands. They tell you to wash your hands all the time, which you should be doing anyway. Come on, guys. And it's not political. This is not a political issue. This is a health issue. So no matter where you live in the world, it's affecting all of us. Hello Detroit, Ross. I'm going to try to do this without wearing my glasses the whole time. And yes, Market, I'm glad somebody agrees with me. And thank you, Rebecca. Rebecca is a super fan here, and she just contributed something to help motivate me to do these. I actually like doing live chats. My problem is that I always seem to have trouble defining a place where I can do them, where it's not windy, it's not too bright, it's not too dark, whatever. And today is not a very good setup. I see in the camera that you can see my TV really good. And that's actually working way better than I expected. My face is in the dark, and behind me it's a really bright day. Beautiful day here in Washington State. No chance of rain, although there might be some rain tomorrow. Volume higher. I can't do anything about the volume. That is something on your end. You have to turn the volume up. Can everyone else hear me? And Rebecca is reminding you to buy some merchandise, including these beautiful, very tasteful FlyingM shirts. They're t-shirts, they're 100% cotton, they're nice cotton shirts. I don't buy junk. I do not believe that polyester should be in t-shirts. So it's 100% cotton, and the logo is not some kind of plastic junk. It is stitched on. And ditto goes for the hats. I forgot to bring one over with me, and I've got hats in 2 colors, and Rebecca just bought some recently, and I thank you for that. Okay, I do not know why I don't know why you're having trouble with volume, because I don't think anyone else is. Okay, and let's see, what time is it? Okay, it's time. So the topic of today's chat is going to be the cost of owning and operating a helicopter, and that includes buying the helicopter and also overhauling the helicopter. I own a Robinson R44 Raven 2. My original Raven 2 was purchased back in 2005. It was pretty loaded, not fully loaded, but pretty loaded. And back in those days, it cost $346,000 for me to buy it. Nowadays, they cost a little bit more, as we're going to see. And I'm going to try to go through these quickly. And again, if you want the details again, you can go and watch this video. It'll be online, and you can watch it. Look under the live events playlist, and then you can slow it down or stop and take notes or whatever. But for now, I'm just going to breeze through this. I'm not going to answer any questions now. I'm going to answer questions at the end of my PowerPoint. So let's go. Buying the helicopter. This is based on Robinson's price list for which comes out every January, so January 2020, and I just updated this because I actually started doing this presentation last year. I've been promising a video about this for a while. So these are the actual today's numbers. The base price out the door, a perfectly flyable helicopter, but basically stripped down, is going to cost you $490. I added the things in here that I actually have in my current helicopter. Which I bought used back in, I guess it was 2018. Maybe it was 17. I can't remember. I think it was 18. Anyway, air conditioning currently costs $21,500. Leather seats, which I have, is another $1,700. And then the bubble observation windows. Those are windows that instead on those are the side windows, not the front. And there's 4 doors. Each door has a window, and instead of the windows being flat, they bow out a little bit, so that if you're flying along with me and you want to kind of look down, you can, stick your head kind of into the window to look down a little bit. They're not super bubbles like you'd find in a utility helicopter. They're more like for tourism. And that costs an extra $500 each. So just the airframe alone for my helicopter, if I were going to buy it brand new today, $515 grand. However, you've got to add the avionics. So I need an audio panel because I have 2 radios. One of the radios is in my GPS. You also need a transponder with at least a DSB out. What I have is the one that's in and out. I have to have from the FAA, they require me to have for charter work, a radar altimeter. So I had to buy one of those. and an ELT is an emergency locator transmitter. And what that thing is supposed to do is if I have a really hard landing, like I crash, it does something in this device that causes it to send out a radio signal, and then they can come look for me. Whether or not that really works, I have no idea, but I've got one. So when you add all those additional avionics together, you get $45,000 more on top of the helicopter price. So also I have, again, required for Part 135, I have an artificial horizon. That's a thing, theoretically, if I fly into a cloud, this thing will prevent me from going into a nosedive if I pay attention to it. I have no plans to fly into a cloud, but that's there to help me. And then a directional gyro is basically a gyro. It's basically a compass that runs with a gyro as opposed to a magnetic compass. The helicopter comes with a magnetic compass, which is what I have. So if you add those in, that's another $9 grand. And then when you add all those things together, you get $570,000. So there you go. Who's got a house that is worth, my house is not worth $570,000. So that means that a brand new helicopter would cost more than my house. Of course, you got to add sales tax because the governor wants his piece, so it's $47,000 or almost $48,000 more in my area. So if I were to go out and buy a brand new helicopter, very much like the one I own, but brand new, I'm looking at $618,000. So when people ask me what does it cost to buy a helicopter, this is what it would cost today to buy my helicopter in Washington State with the Washington sales tax. If you move to Oregon, you could save $47,000. So moving on. Now, we're going into now the actual flying the helicopter, what the operating costs are. And the operating costs can be broken down into two things. The actual hourly operating costs and the cost of owning the helicopter, which you can also break down by the hour. So we're going to go through all those. So the direct hourly operating costs. So I get in the helicopter, I turn the key, I take off. This is what's going to cost me. The fuel, I burn approximately 16 gallons per hour. Now I burn less if I'm flying slower. I burn less when I dry cherries, for example. There's less weight on board. I'm flying really slow. I could burn more if I've got a whole bunch of people on board and I'm just hauling ass trying to get someplace. But I figure 16, that's what Robinson uses. $7, I don't know why I put an hour here, it should be per gallon, $7 per gallon. Right now the gas is actually a little cheaper where I live, it's like $5.25, but I've paid up to $9 a gallon for gas, so figure somewhere in between. I know it's more expensive in places like California, so just figure 7, just for sake of arguments. That's per gallon. 16 times 7 is 112. You're going to basically burn through a quart of oil every 5 hours, and again, that depends on whether or not you've got a leak or whatever you're doing, whatever, but just figure 1 quart every 5 hours, about $6 a quart, $1 an hour, big deal. Scheduled maintenance. So the helicopter needs certain maintenance on a certain schedule. So for example, every 50 hours, for example, I need to have a 50-hour inspection. They take some panels off, they take out the spark plugs, they check them, they gap them, they check the compression, they change the oil, of course, the oil filter. So that's an example of scheduled maintenance. Every 300 hours, I think it is, I need to get the gearbox oil changed. So that's another example of scheduled maintenance. You go through the list of all the different things, belts being replaced, 100-hour inspection. If I fly more than 100 hours in a year, I'm going to need to get a 100-hour inspection, which is basically the same as an annual. So if you add all those little hourly inspections together and you divide that by the number of hours, you get $25 an hour. And now this number and the following number are Robinson numbers. And they are I have slightly raised them because Robinson's numbers tend to be really low. So I think, for example, on this, I think they were estimating 21 per hour. I rounded it up. The unscheduled, I think they were estimating like 11 an hour, and I rounded that up. Unscheduled is, oh boy, unscheduled. Okay, you start your engine, and for some reason, the starter pin when it engages with the ring gear, for some reason it doesn't do it quite properly and it starts eating teeth off your ring gear. This has happened to me. It happened to me in my last helicopter when it was like 100 hours old. They had to replace the starter, they had to replace the ring gear. You know, $2,000 right there, you know. So this is unscheduled, examples of unscheduled maintenance. Let's see. I was flying out of McCarran Airport in Las Vegas on my way back to Arizona. And I took off and I climbed up to 3,000 feet, not over the ground, but 3,000 feet, altitude, 2,000 feet over the field, something like that. Flying down Tropicana Avenue and my alternator light goes on. Well, I think to myself, how long can I fly without an alternator? And the answer was definitely less than 2 hours, which is what it would take me to get home. So I called up the tower and I said, I need to come back and land. And they cleared me to just basically turn around and come back. They asked me if I need any assistance, whatever. It was not an emergency, fortunately. But when I landed and got out and took a look underneath, the alternator belt was gone. Pieces of it probably are still to be found over Tropicana Boulevard in Vegas. So again, unscheduled maintenance, that belt's got to be replaced. Well, to replace that belt, they got to take the tail cone off and the fan scroll off. And if they take the fan scroll off, when they put the fan scroll back on, they've got to balance it, you know, $2,000, $3,000, whatever it was, and get a guy out with the right equipment to service me right there. You know, that's the kind of stuff that happens. I had a fuel pump go bad in flight. Again, I landed at Las Vegas. I found a mechanic up in Washington State. He had a spare fuel pump. He got on a plane. He flew to Las Vegas. I'm paying him to replace the fuel pump, which any mechanic could have done if they had the fuel pump. But I'm also paying for his airfare. So these are the kinds of things that you gotta keep in mind. If you add all these things together, it comes out to $153 an hour. Again, I think that that's really being overly optimistic. Then you've got the reserve for overhaul. Now, overhaul is a deferred expense. What an overhaul is they're basically going to take the helicopter apart and they're going to put it back together with new and rebuilt parts. And this takes a really long time. When I had it done, it took 3.5 months, and that was considered pretty quick. And it costs a lot of money. The last time I had it done, it cost $220,000. So the reason you're paying it all at once is because the way Robinson works is instead of these various parts timing out during the life of the helicopter, they have the major components like the main rotor blade and the engine and the transmission and the tail rotor, all these things. They have these things all time out at the same time. So if you were flying a different helicopter, you might have to pay to replace your blades after, say, 1,200 hours. And then you might have to replace your engine at 2,000 hours. And so what happens is that everything's on a different clock, but you're still paying for it. It's still a maintenance expense, a scheduled maintenance expense, but you're paying for it as it incurs. Well, with a Robinson, it all happens, not all, but most of it happens at 2,200 hours or 12 years, whichever comes first, and it all costs one big lump sum. So that's a deferred expense. If you know anything about accounting, it's a deferred expense. And believe it or not, this came up in my divorce because I had to educate the court that the money that I had saved up was a deferred expense on the operation of the helicopter, which would explain why I should be able to keep it. And the judge agreed, and I was able to keep the money I had saved up, which was quite a bit of money at the time. The owner should theoretically be saving up for it. So if you figure, like, my next overhaul is not going to be 220, it's going to be probably between 250 and 270 because it's the second overhaul for this helicopter. So I need a new tail cone, and there's a couple of other things that I need to have replaced that's extra. So if I take the $250,000 divided by 2,200 hours, it comes out to $114. So theoretically, every hour I fly, I should be putting $114 in the bank, saving up for that overhaul. And if you do that religiously, when you need your overhaul, the money's there and you don't need to take out a loan, which is basically the situation I would have been in if I didn't get divorced and have to spend all that money on lawyers. Let's not go there. So, the total direct cost, you take your hourly operating costs, $153 an hour. You take your reserve for overhaul, $114 an hour, and then your total direct costs are $267. And you're probably saying, Well, that's a really good deal. You know, that $267. The problem is you're not counting the rest of the expenses. The expenses for owning the helicopter. Just owning a helicopter and having it parked in a hangar or wherever, ready to fly, is going to cost you money. So, for example, insurance. My insurance right now is $15,000 a year. Whether I fly it or not, it's costing me $15,000 to own the helicopter. The reason I put in a range of $15,000 to $30,000 is because I have gotten quotes actually higher than $30,000. Also, I'm insuring a helicopter with a hull value, because it's almost timed out, of only $150,000. In other words, I'm saying that this helicopter I own is only worth $150,000, so if I crash it and you need to pay me money, that's all I expect to get. However, when I bring my helicopter in for overhaul and it comes back, it'll be worth closer to $500,000. So I'm going to have to insure a helicopter with a higher value, and unfortunately, I'm willing to bet it comes close to $30,000 a year. So that's a fixed annual cost. The annual inspection, that's required for a helicopter, or any aircraft, a plane, helicopter, whatever. Every year you have to get it inspected to keep it airworthy. That's going to run me anywhere between $3,000 and $10,000. I did have an annual inspection once that cost $11,000. I did have one once that cost just under $1,000. But generally, they're around $3,000 is what I expect to spend. And the older your aircraft gets, the higher that number is going to be, because they're going to find more little tiny things when they go do an inspection. My last one, for example, they had to replace an exhaust hose. They had to replace some other kind of hose that they had to do. Little tiny things like that, but they do add up. Hangar, parking it, you're going to want to probably put it inside. You don't have to put it inside, but even if you park it outside, you're still going to be paying, $30 to $50 a month. The cheapest hangar I ever got was $150 a month. The most expensive one I ever had was $850 a month. That's the range if you annualize it. And then in the state of Washington, I have to register it every year, and that costs $90. So my total fixed or annual costs, my fixed annual costs are $19,000 to $50,000. So that's just owning the helicopter, having it sit in a hangar ready to fly, airworthy and all that. That's what you can expect to spend on a Robinson R44 Raven 2. Okay, so that fixed annual cost, now you can calculate what that is per hour. My dogs are about to bark because the UPS lady is coming down the street. Is she turning? No, she's going good. When the UPS lady comes in, the dogs are going to go nuts. Okay. You could take that big fat amount and divide it by the number of hours that you fly, and that becomes your annual cost for those things. So the amount per hour depends on how many hours you fly in a year. So if you only fly 100 hours in a year, you take those amount, that range, you divide it by 100 hours, and you come out with $1,900 to $5,000 an hour for those things, and that's on top of the other stuff. If you fly 250 hours, it's quite a bit less. If you fly 1,000 hours, it's next to nothing. So the more you fly, the cheaper per hour these fixed costs are. The average private pilot, personal owner who's not doing it for business, normally flies about 100 hours per year. Okay, so now when you're looking at the total big picture, your total operating costs per hour, you got the direct costs from the original listing of costs, you got the fixed costs that we just went through. I based it on $250 a year. So that means that your total operating costs per year, per hours per year, no, it should be per year. I screwed this up, I did this in a hurry. Total operating costs per hour, if you fly 250 hours per year, is going to be $347 to $468 dollars per hour. So that's basically what it costs. Now, I used to fly about 200 hours a year. I keep track of all my expenses in Quicken, and what I can do is at the end of each year, I can add up all of my expenses, and I can divide that by the number of hours I flew, and I could add in the reserve for overhaul, and I would come up with my operating costs per hour. And when I was flying 200 hours a year, this is going back a few years now, and when things were a lot cheaper, my operating costs per hour were right around 300. Now they're closer to 4. So that's my picture. Every time I get in the helicopter and I fly it, it's going to be closer to 4. The only thing I'm not mentioning here is the fact that those annual costs, my annual costs are, I don't have to pay for hangar or parking. All that is free. So that I save. However, I do still have to pay for insurance, and I am flying considerably less than 100 hours per year right now. So those costs are really high right now. So that's the story about costs. Let me see what I have next on this. Okay, next I have overhaul stuff. So let me take a break from talking. You can look at my old helicopter being rolled into a hangar by Paul to going for its overhaul. And I'm going to go through here, I'm going to answer questions from the folks who have, first I'm going to say hi again to Barry and Roy. Hey Roy. And the Roy, which is not to be confused with Roy. Let's see, PK 421, these are all members. And I'm seeing yikes and holy smokes. And Jason B, hi Jason. Okay, I think I'm all caught up with everybody that all the members, and of course everybody else here. Good to see you, and there's a lot of you, so I want to. So let me try to go back here and try to get into the stuff. First of all, let's see. Okay, all right. So none of you, my members have any questions, so I'll get to the other questions. Let's see. Let's see. Hold on. Sorry. The T-shirt and the caps there are, I think they're 20. So that's good. That Jonathan wanted to know. If you go into the description for this video, when I write up the description for this video, there'll be a link where you can go and check it out. Let's see, what else? Nobody, yes, about the vehicle cost, Marcus says we should be figuring out our vehicle costs similarly, and I was going to share it with you folks, but it wouldn't fit right on the picture, so I decided not to do it. But Robinson actually creates a document, and I will link to it. It's a PDF. I'll link to it in the description for the show, and it attempts to compare the cost of owning and operating a Robinson and driving it to owning a luxury car, and it's pretty optimistic. But some of the values that I use, like the maintenance costs, I took it out of there. It's interesting. It's interesting because, of course, the problem is that you can't just fly a helicopter to any place. Yes, around here, yeah, I could go land it in my friend Cindy's yard. Yeah, I could land it at a restaurant I know down in Vantage, at a winery I know. There's places I can land it. But if you're going to go to Walmart, or probably if you own a helicopter, you're probably not going to go to Walmart. Okay, if you're going to go to the mall in Scottsdale to go shopping at all those designer shops, you're not going to be able to fly in with a helicopter and land on the roof. They're going to get really pissed off. So it's not practical, I think, to compare the cost of operating a helicopter to a car, because you can't use them the same way. And Matthias, and I hope I'm saying your name right, wants to know, would it not be cheaper to lease? Probably not, because some of the costs are, there's two kinds of leases. There's a wet lease and a dry lease. In a wet, I can't remember which one is which. In a wet lease, the person leasing you the helicopter pays all the expenses. And so you're paying him a higher dollar amount per hour. In a dry lease, you're paying all the expenses, and then you're also leasing it from him. And the way these guys work it is, obviously they're going to work it so that they make money. So if you're only going to fly a little bit here and there, for example, you're a pilot and you figure you're only going to fly maybe 2 or 3 hours a month, take your friends for a ride or go see something from the air, whatever, then yeah, it's cheaper to rent it. And that's going to be a wet lease, so you'll pay, I don't know, $400 or $500 an hour, and you'll go fly and you're done. But if you're going to fly a lot of hours, or you're going to, like I use my helicopter only nowadays because I'm trying to save it. I only use it like 4 months out of the year. So I can't find somebody who's going to lease me a helicopter for 4 months, not to do the kind of work that I do. So you have to, it's a very fair question. And the answer for me is no, it's not working for me. But for other people, then yeah, it might work very well. Let's see now. Let's see. Keith, yes, the costs are a lot. It's a lot to keep up with. And Jim, yes, Cessna is definitely looking a lot cheaper. And gliders are cheaper too. But remember, when you fly a glider, you got to pay a tow plane to get you up in the air, and you still have to hangar it, or at least have a trailer for it, and then have to put it together every time you go use it. Let's see. Good point, Jim. Jim brings up the fact that you have to add training costs before your purchase, and that's a really good point. You're not born a helicopter pilot, you have to learn. And it's going to cost you, depending on how far you want to go with it, just to become a private pilot though, it's probably going to cost you, I'd say $15,000 to $20,000 just to learn how to fly. And you're also then going to be renting from probably your flight school, because nobody else is going to want to rent to you. If you're like a 100-hour pilot, they don't know you. So you're going to probably wind up having to rent from your flight school unless you wind up buying. And yeah, there's a lot of expense to that. If you wanted to get all your ratings to become a flight instructor so that you could eventually become a commercial pilot, I got my commercial certificate, but I never got my flight instructor certificate, and I also never got an instrument rating. But if you go all the way, it's going to probably cost you, I'd say, $70,000 to $100,000 to get all that. So that's, that's something to look forward to. Let's see, the pilot costs per hour. Somebody pointed out the 100-hour numbers were way off too high. And you know what, Hapa? I think you're right. I think they were off by a tenfold. So drop a zero off, now that I'm thinking about it. But it's still odd. Brian wants to know if I've flown turbines before. I have. I flew at the Grand Canyon for 1 season. David says, recurring training and check rides, yes. I'm a Part 135 certificate holder, so I get a check ride with the FAA every year, and believe it or not, they do not charge me for that. I'm not complaining, but I don't see why they don't. They're always complaining about money. I don't see why they can't charge each pilot $100, $150 for that check ride, but okay, they don't. That check ride counts as my biannual flight review, so I don't need to pay somebody for a biannual flight review. However, before my check ride, I always fly with another pilot and get some time in and get some training in, and I usually pay him, so I do have that cost, but it's usually not that very much, maybe $50. My clients pay for the drawing. Buzz Smith wants to know what they pay. They pay a standby fee to make sure that I don't leave town, and that I have enough pilots around here to help me dry their orchards on a timely basis. So they pay a standby fee that's dependent on acreage, and then they pay a per hour fee for me to dry the cherries, the actual flight time. And that's usually $7.50 to $8.50 an hour, depending on the client. Let's see. I don't charge separate as a pilot, and my helicopter per hour, San Francisco Bay is asking. I charge a fee for me to fly my helicopter, and that is, for regular flying, is currently $5.95 an hour. And I do not do any CFI work. I'm not a CFI. Okay, we're not going to talk about cherry drawing right now. We're talking about insurance, helicopter costs. So let's see. Good question from the Roy 300, not Roy, but the Roy. I think that's kind of funny. Anyway, does my insurance premiums lower the longer you've been flying? Yes, to a certain extent. However, they do go up when you crash. Keep that in mind. So don't crash. It's kind of like owning a car. If you think about it, your insurance at age 35 is going to be lower than your teenage son's insurance at 17. So it's the same way that way. And then if you get a bunch of crashes or even one crash, your rates are going to go up. same thing, works the same way. The only way it doesn't work the same way is this. If you total your car, your insurance company can come back and say, okay, your car is worth $25,000, that's what we're gonna pay you. On a helicopter, whatever you insured for is what they will pay you minus the deductible. So, for example, if you insured for $300,000 and there's a 5% deductible and you crash it and they say, yep, you're right, it's totaled, they're gonna pay you $300,000 minus 5% of that. So whatever that comes out to be. And it really doesn't matter what you say it's worth. So if it's like, if I insured this one for $300,000, even though it's only worth probably $150,000, and then I crashed it, they're gonna pay me as if it's worth $300,000. But however, I don't wanna crash it, so we're not going through that again. So let's see what else. Will I retire? Yes, I will eventually retire. But I think I'll still fly once in a while. I don't think I'll own anymore though, that's for sure. I will give it up when I can't get a medical. You need to get a medical certificate every year, which is another cost, $130 a year for my annual. There comes a point where you can't pass it anymore because you're not healthy. I have a friend, kind of a sad story, he flew an S-55 turbine conversion, big giant helicopter, sits upstairs, you know, big cargo area down below, and he did all kinds of work with it, and he was, when he turned 73, and he used to fly this thing all the time, and he passed his first class medical, and he was perfectly healthy. The insurance company said to him, I'm sorry, but we're not going to insure you anymore, and he had to quit flying because he couldn't get insurance, which is a real shame. So Matthias, I hope I'm saying that right, wants to know whether I would lease my helicopter for the months I'm not using it, and I have been thinking about that. Not right now because, again, it's getting close to overhaul. I have 88 hours left before overhaul. It's at the point where it's starting to get scary when you start getting that close. So I wouldn't consider leasing it now, but once it comes out of overhaul, I've got three possible avenues that I'm exploring. The first one, which is the one I prefer, is to sell half of it to a winter user. So maybe some guy who vacations in Arizona every winter, he's down there for 6 months. I don't need it every winter, so he can have it from October through March, and then come March, the end of March or beginning of April, I pick it up, take it up to Washington, and I use it for the summer, and then we just keep doing that. And we'd be 50% each owners, and there'd be a set of rules and a contract and agreement and all that to make sure that we're both taking care of it and hangering it and all that other stuff. And that would be, to me, that would be the perfect thing, because then I can go on vacation all winter. Second option would be to lease it out to a winter user, and I would have a leasing company take care of that, probably. Or I might do it myself. The trick, again, is to find somebody who wants to use it for just the winter. And if I could find such a person, maybe they're just interested in buying half a helicopter. That would work for me. And then the third possibility, which I've been thinking of lately, which I don't know, is to actually start taking it down to Arizona with me in the winter and doing my tour business in Arizona every winter. I've got a place to hangar it. I've got everything lined up down there, except a place to stay, and even that's pretty easy to get. And if I do that, I'll be able to just, be able to have the helicopter available all year long and make money with it in the winter, which I'm not currently doing now. What I don't want to do is get it overhauled and then let it sit in a hangar unused for 6 months out of the year. I just don't want to go there. I think I answered the question about the medical. I don't actually get my medical done here. I get it done in Arizona because I'm in Arizona in the winter, which is when I need it. And it's 125, 130. And thank you, Rebecca, for the comments about my jewelry. Off topic. Okay. The money that you defer for mandatory maintenance, have you considered investing that money to help it grow in a very risk-free market? Yeah, I put it in, when I had the money, I had it in a money market fund, very risk-free. And then unfortunately, again, I had to use that for my divorce, so that was kind of bad, but then I started saving up again. So by the time I actually got the overhaul done, I had some money saved up. It's very tempting to try to put it in the stock market, but then all I can think of is what happens if the stock market tanks and that money's gone. So I just usually put it in a money market fund or a CD, or short-term CD. Let's see, whatever, let's see, what was there? Oh, the Arnie says he's impressed with the auto rotation check ride. Again, it's off topic, guys. It's actually, it wasn't check ride, that was some training. Again, I remember I said I do some recurrent training every year, and that's what that video is from. Basically, the only thing I get recurrent training on is my auto rotations, because I'm not a flight instructor and I don't do practice auto rotations all the time. That's what I feel I need the most practice on. Can you fly around without insurance? Yes, but you'd be really stupid to do that. I can't because I'm Part 135. The FAA requires me to have insurance. What determines whether you fly or trailer the helicopter? I don't have a trailer that can take it. The trailer to take it would cost about $30,000 to buy, and then I'll be driving around with an investment worth, after overhaul, maybe $400,000 or $500,000 on a trailer behind my truck on a freeway with crazy drivers. I'm not interested in doing that. I'd rather fly it. It's safer to fly it. Plus, there's people that claim that even though the blades are supported, the wear and tear, blah, 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 it's just not worth it. Would I require a GoPro on my helicopter if I loaned it out? No. You're looking at my snake there? This is a snake. This is off topic too. You guys are getting off topic. I'm going to go keep talking again. That snake is made out of a rasp. It's really cool. There's a blacksmith in Arizona that makes all kinds of cool stuff out of old metal tools. Mark wants to know why I don't have advertising on my helicopter, and it's because nobody has offered to give me money to put advertising on my helicopter. And Rebecca, thank you, Rebecca. Rebecca has sent $20 to help support me. You just want to keep me talking. So, what's the minimum time a helicopter should be flown per month? It doesn't really matter. It's a good idea to start it periodically to make sure the battery still works. And has COVID affected the helicopter industry? Yeah. It's actually to my benefit this year, because every year I struggle to find helicopter pilots to help me with cherry drying, and nobody wants to come, or very few people want to come, because there's not really a lot of money in it, unless we get a lot of rain or really long contracts. However, this year, the flight schools couldn't fly, so they were desperate for money. So I was able to find pilots a lot easier and bring them on to fly with me. And I still have three guys actually working for me right now. Could I make money teaching? No, because I'm not a CFI, and also my insurance rates would go up and I'd have to teach a lot to cover the extra insurance costs, so no. Okay, I'm going to go, we're completely off topic here. What Oscar does mention, adding a special camera and the gimbal and all that other stuff. Actually, Robinson sells ENG, electronic news gathering helicopters, that are all set up like that. And there's a guy down in Arizona who used to fly, gosh, I think it was A-Stars for the local TV channel. And when we had our recession back in the late 2000s, they canned him. And he went out and bought one of these Robinson's ENG, and he now provides news services to a bunch of places. And he's doing really well with it. His name is Bruce Hefner. If you're in Arizona, you would probably have heard of him. Hey, Warren from Merced. Okay, so we're going to talk now about the rest of the overhaul stuff. So what you're seeing here is a picture of Paul Mansfield, who used to work at the Robinson factory. He now works for Quantum Helicopters in Chandler, Arizona. And I had landed my helicopter here in 2016, it was October, to get its first overhaul. And it had 168 hours left on it, but it only had 2 months. Because remember, it's 2,200 hours or 12 years, whichever comes first. And it was coming up for its 12 years, it would be at the end of December. So I brought it there in October. And the main reason I brought it in a little bit earlier than I needed to was because in the 50-hour inspection, when they cut open the oil filter, they saw some metal in the oil, which means that the engine is generating metal chips. And they, of course, will always find something in the oil, but this time he said it was way more than usual. So I decided, let me get this thing down to overhaul so I'm not tempted to fly it. So I brought it down, landed it out there, and I have a few pictures from overhaul. The one thing about overhaul I want to explain, there's two ways you can, well, there's three ways you can get overhaul. Okay. The cheapest way is if you've got a helicopter that's either up against the 2,200 hours or the 12 years, certain parts are 2,200-hour parts and certain parts are 12-year parts. So if you're against one or the other, you could go to a shop that is willing to do the overhaul on only the parts that you need. So if you're up at 2,200 hours, you definitely need the engine done. You definitely need, I guess it's the blades. I don't remember what it is. There's a list of stuff that's 2,200 hours and there's a list of stuff that's 12 years. And if you're a private pilot with an R44, you can go to a shop and you can get the 12-year one, because if you're a private owner, you're probably only going to be, you'll probably have it for 12 years before you get to the 2,200 hours. And it'll cost you a lot less, probably under $100,000. The problem is if you're flying it commercially, you can't do that. You have to get, you have to comply with everything. And believe me, I looked at this every which way, and I cannot remember the reasons why, but the last time I went for an overhaul, I looked at this, and it was definitely, I definitely needed the whole thing. So I went for the whole thing. So then, if you're going for the whole thing, you have two options. One is to go to an authorized Robinson Service Center that does overhauls, and Quantum Helicopters is one of them. And they're all over the country. They're all over the world, actually. And I got estimates from, boy, I think I got estimates from 4 shops. Two shops came in really, really expensive, like really expensive. One shop came in really, really cheap, which made me wonder, why is it so cheap? And then this shop came in reasonable. Cheaper than the Robinson Overhaul, which is your other option, but yet more expensive than this super cheap guy, which I had to wonder what was going on there. Plus, I know Paul going way back 20 plus years. He knows Robinsons like you know your hands. He just knows Robinsons really, really well. They've got a good, well-equipped shop, and I decided to take it to them. And I was just talking to Paul the other day, and there's a chance I might be taking it to him again, this other helicopter. So this is Paul wheeling it in. These are 2 pictures side by side. It's hard to see where one ends and the other begins because they're taken in the same place. There's me standing there, holding up my brand new tail rotor, still wrapped in the foam, from the factory. The whole tail rotor assembly is replaced at overhaul, and this is me holding it, just posing. And then next to me, and it's hard to see, I don't know if I can point with my mouse. Oh yeah, I could do this. There. That's my aircraft. These are the new, oh, nope, these are the old, I think they're the old rotor blades. They might be the new ones, I can't tell. These are all the parts for my helicopter. And what they do is they put the helicopter on a trolley, and then they've got this cart next to it, and they put all the spare stuff next to it, and they take it apart, and that's it. I mean, you can't even see where my helicopter is. This is not mine right here. This is something else. Actually, that's actually the top end of mine. This is the fan scroll, and then this is some engine cowling or something like that. I don't remember what that is. These are definitely blades, but they look to me to be used. They look could just be reflections though. I don't know. Okay, and then me with the tail rotor. Then I came back a couple of months later, and they were much further along. They had gotten the cockpit back together, and they had gotten a lot of the cowling on. I cannot remember if the engine was in for this. Maybe the next picture. Yes, the engine is in. Engine is down there. This is the fan scroll, which we saw it on the cart. There's the cart. The tail cone is on. So a lot of it is put back together. And if you took all the skin off my helicopter, this is what you'd see underneath. This is the frame, by the way. Part of the equipment, part of the system for overhaul is they have to boroscope the entire frame. to make sure that there's no hidden cracks in there. And I did not get the helicopter painted during this overhaul. It would have cost $10,000 more. And then this is Paul bringing it back out. Okay. I wish I had more pictures, but my thing is I didn't want to go bother those guys because they were busy, and I just decided I didn't want to bother them, so I let it go. Let's see. So that's the overhaul. This year's overhaul, this time's overhaul, because I need to get a new tail cone and there's some other things that are this is the second overhaul for this helicopter. Let me explain, let me go a little further. So this is Zero Mike Lima. This was the helicopter I bought brand new out of the factory, right to my specifications. I took really good care of this helicopter over the years. When I went into overhaul, it looked almost new. I mean, when you looked under the hood, everything looked a little worn, and the carpet was trashed. But other than that, it looked really, really, really good. And I took really good care of it, and I love this helicopter, and it was my prized possession. And then in 2018, while flying at night and getting distracted by my navigation, I crashed it. I flew through a row of trees, and there is a blog post that explains exactly what happened. It's in my blog, and I'll put a link to that in the notes for this live stream. And one day I'll probably do a live stream where I talk about the crash, because I did a really stupid thing, and I could have been killed. I won't say I nearly got killed, because I actually amazingly hardly was hurt at all. But if you saw the wreckage and going through my mind, I mean, I really thought I was going to be dead. So the point is that if you do something stupid, which is what I did, you could kill yourself, and I was lucky not to die. However, I completely totaled this, completely. And of course, that was in, let's see, February. It happened in February, and I needed to have a helicopter in time for cherry season, because I make the majority of my living during cherry season. So I got the insurance money, and I realized then that I should have insured this for more, because it was actually worth more than I insured it for. I did not know what it cost to buy a new one, to buy a new used one in the same condition. So I had a choice. I could either get out another loan on another helicopter, or I could buy one for the money I had. So I wound up buying the one I got, because I bought it from, first of all, Paul. It's the first helicopter, the first Robinson R44 out of the factory with air conditioning. It's the same year as this one. When you're sitting inside, it looks exactly the same on the inside, the same carpet color, the same seat color. The instruments are all exactly the same. The only difference is that the clock and the Hobbs meter are switched positions. Other than that, the damn thing is identical. And I was in a point mentally that I needed the mental comfort of the same thing. So when I sit in the new helicopter, 34 Delta, it is like sitting inside of Zero Mike Lima. So that's why I bought it. It cost $230,000. I had the cash. I wrote a check, basically, or I had a wire transfer from the bank. Went down to Arizona, picked it up, and flew away with it. It had 220 hours left on it until overhaul. 220 hours or 7 years. So it's not due for overhaul until 2025. However, I fly it. It's only got 88 hours left as of the last time I flew. So I need to go through this whole overhaul thing again. So the overhaul, I didn't mention one thing I forgot to mention earlier is the different ways to get the overhaul. The third way is through the Robinson factory. When you take it to the Robinson factory, they literally put it on an overhaul assembly line, strip it down on the line, just keep bringing it down the line, and then put it back together, and it comes out a brand new helicopter. However, it takes 9 months. So it's a time thing, plus the price is a little higher than I would get through a shop like Paul's shop. However, they will anything that is in the least bit damaged, they will replace it. So if I've got a side panel that's got a little crack on it, and I do, I mean, even the other one had little cracks on it here and there, and what they normally will do is they'll drill out a hole, which prevents the crack from continuing. If Robinson saw that, they'd replace the panel, and they'd charge me for it. So it would probably, an overhaul at Robinson would probably cost me close to $300,000. I would get a brand new helicopter, basically, but $300,000. So I'm probably going to go with a shop like Paul's, or there's other people who are going to give me bids, and it'll probably cost, I'm thinking easily $250,000. So this is on my mind because I don't have $250,000, and the more I fly the helicopter, the closer I am getting to having to get that overhaul done. So it's really on my mind, and I'm at the point now where if it doesn't rain for the rest of cherry season, I have 88 hours on it. I could stick it in the hangar, not fly it for a whole nother year, and use it again next year, and then get the overhaul next year. So I would basically be deferring the entire cost for a whole year. Of course, I won't be able to go fly it, I won't be able to do videos with it, I won't be able to take it down to Arizona and do tours down there. I won't be able to do anything with it. It'll have to just sit in the hangar, which would be very, very sad. So I'm right now sitting on the fence. It depends on how easily I can get financing, it depends on how much I have to finance, and all these other things that go into it. So when you see me talking on my videos, like please buy a shirt, please buy a hat, consider becoming a member, tell your friends, all these different things, it's because the YouTube channel, yeah, it earns me a little bit of money. Right now I can tell you one thing, it does not earn me enough in a month to pay for even 1 hour of flight time. So it costs a lot of money to fly. So, that's the thing. I love doing the videos. I love getting the comments on the videos. I love educating people, when they watch, especially airplane pilots will watch it and then I didn't realize it was this or that, or like young kids, 12-year-old kid who always wanted to be a pilot, and they find the channel and they watch the videos and they're all enthusiastic. And I love all of that. I love educating people. I love showing people what it's like to fly. I don't do crazy videos because number one, you do crazy videos and you're basically saying to the FAA, hey, look at me, I'm showing people all these crazy things. And then you start getting calls from the FAA, and I don't want to go there. I don't, not only that, but it's freaking dangerous. And also, when you do crazy things in a helicopter, you're tarnishing the helicopter industry. You're basically saying, there are people out there that think that helicopter pilots are crazy and irresponsible and all that, and then you do a video that shows you being crazy and irresponsible, you're just confirming that. And I don't want to be part of that scene. So yeah, my channel is not the most popular helicopter channel, and yeah, I don't get, I do a video with Nick and gets 2,000 views in a week, and it's disappointing, but that's what you got here. I'm going to tell you how it is, I'm going to tell you like it is. I'm not going to do anything crazy. And that's what you're getting from me. And if I do take it to Paul, this year or next year to get it overhauled, Paul just got a brand new paint shop. And there's a pretty good chance my helicopter will come back looking just like that. And wouldn't that be special? I just got to see if I can get it all together. So that is my presentation with the videos and the PowerPoint. Who's still here? 119 people, holy cow. So let's see what where I left off here. All right, I'm gonna try to go through all of them that I can. Peter wants to know if I ever get any bird strikes. I've had 2 bird strikes, one of them on the leg of the helicopter, one of them somewhere else that it didn't damage it. The one on the leg dented that. On the other side though, and I actually let it stay for a while, and then when I just got fed up and just replaced it. That's just like aluminum or something, that piece of metal just folds over. The legs are black. Yes, let's see now. How often do you have to change the rotor blades? Every 12 years or 2,200 hours unless you damage them. Then you've got to get them replaced if you're damaged. And there's all these rules for tolerances on dents. I've had this helicopter, I had gotten some dents in the blades, but fortunately they were all within tolerance. R44 blades cost, I'm thinking around $48,000 for a set, and you have to replace them both because they're balanced. Wouldn't an R22 be cheaper to fly and run? Yes, but I can't do anything with it. I can only take one passenger. If I take one passenger, I can't fill it up with fuel because the payload is so low. I can't dry cherry trees with it. Yeah, it would be cheaper. So if you're looking for yourself, you just want a fun thing. We used to say an R22 is an excellent one-person helicopter. It is. But it's no use to me. My first helicopter was an R22. Okay. Hello from Wenatchee. And let's see. Oh, and then Rebecca says, yes, it was for R22. I'm catching up here. Yep, and asking is that okay? Yes, I'm glad I didn't get injured either. Got nasty bruises though. Let's see. There on the blog post there is pictures of the wreckage, and I'll put a link to that in the description for this. No, Robinson was not originally a kit manufacturer. You are thinking of Rotorway. Rotorway. I think it's called Rotorway. And they are also built in Arizona, the kits, and I think they now have factory builds, but I could be wrong on that. And is it Rotorway? Something, I think it's like that, Rotorway. Yeah, I like the, Marcus says that she likes the Arizona Tours option. I do too. I go to Arizona anyway. Last year I went and did some jewelry shows. I got really disappointed. I think I would rather do, you know, do something with my time. I love flying down there too. It's really amazing. Hapa says, Geology Air Tours, Nick will buy all the tickets. You know, I talked to Hapa, I talked to Nick about the tickets, about doing geology tours, kind of doing them when he does these outings. And he thought that that might work in certain places. Again, I'm gonna need to overhaul first because I just, you know, I don't want to have to worry about time. And Oscar, and I really appreciate, again, all the channel members. Oscar says it's why he became a channel member. He knows what it costs to fly. You know what they say about an aviation business? How do you make $2 million? How do you make $1 million in aviation? You start with $2 million. And thank you, Pac-Man's 7. Let's see now. Crowdfunding page. Oh, that's a. Oh, there's the dog. Oh, that's Rosie. Rosie likes to bark. So there's people going down my road on horseback, and that's what Rosie's barking at. She'll stop in a minute. A crowdfunding page. You know, don't laugh, but I've thought about a crowdfunding page. Let's see. If I need $250,000, so let's see how many. If everybody chipped in $100, how much? You know, how many people would that be? But the thing is that the problem is that people. They see me asking for money and they say to themselves, you own a helicopter, you must be rich. What are you asking us for money for? You know, I'm not poor. We'll say I'm not poor because I do afford this, but the money that I make well, by flying the helicopter, it has to cover all my living expenses and the helicopter. And I'm doing that. But I'm not doing that with anything to spare. I'm just doing that. So, and unfortunately I need to spare right now. So, it takes Robinson 9 months to overhaul. First of all, it's not a small Robinson. It's a regular size Robinson. It takes them a long time because they're slow. What else can I say? And it can't take 60 days. Even the shop that I took it to, which has multiple guys working on it, for them to do an overhaul in 60 days, they'd have to have like 4 or 5 guys working on it, you know, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, you know, the whole time. And they'd have to have all the parts, you know, arriving when they need them and all this other stuff. And like, it'll take, gosh, what did he tell me? I think he's told me that there's a 9-week waiting list just to get the parts from Robinson. So even, and I have to pay for the parts before they'll order them. So I have to come up with, I don't know, I think he told me it was $109,000 for them to order the parts. And then for 9 weeks, they can't do anything because they have to wait for the parts to come. But I have to come up with that money before they'll even order it. So it's not like you can wait till the end and you get a bill for $250 and you pay it. They want more than half the money up front. Yes, and whoever just bought the T-shirt, I did hear a thing. Thank you for buying a T-shirt. Okay, what else? Let's see. What do I do with my old helicopter parts? I don't do anything with them. Some of the parts are required to be returned to Robinson. For example, the rotor blades. When they replace the rotor blades, they're required to send the blade hubs back to Robinson. The reason they send just the hubs and not the whole blades is because of the cost of shipping. Once you cut, and I mean literally cut, the hubs off the blades are worthless. So Robinson is being assured that these blades are not being used on another helicopter because the hubs are gone, and yet what they normally do is they throw them away. Oddly, and I almost put a picture of that in here too, I pulled my old rotor blades out of the trash at Quantum, and I brought them home, and they're actually sitting out behind my house right now, lying in the dirt. I thought I would do something decorative with them, hang them somewhere, but the damn things weigh about 60 pounds each. So I need to have a friend help me if I'm going to hang them somewhere. I thought maybe hang them out on my deck. Whatever. If I do, I'll do a picture on that. Let's see. Rotorway. Thank you for checking on that, Oscar. It's Rotorway. Let's see. Brian, thanks for the necklace purchase too, Brian. I'm starting to do some different stuff, but that's off topic. I'm not talking about that. Let's see. So, crowdfunding has sponsored Nick's Over the Rock. Nick Over the Rocks, I don't know, because they're not getting a lot of views. People are interested, but not terribly interested. Let's see. That's it for the questions. You guys are out of questions. So, let's see, what time is it? It's exactly 3 o'clock. We went exactly an hour. That is pretty good. Tell me now while I've got you, what topics do you want to see covered in a live stream? And remembering that I'm going to try to stay on topic for these things. So let me know, just, shout them out right now. And again, I'm sitting on the fence about extracurricular flying. I did go on a charter flight with somebody up by the Grand Coulee Dam. And unfortunately, instead of putting a Hero 7 on my nose cam, I put my Hero 3, and the vibration is not very good. So I'm going to see if I can make something out of that video. There's a lot of footage, and there was also a cockpit cam, the instrument cam, looking out the front, and that was a Hero 7, and the audio is on that, and I should be able to get something out of that, but the nose cam might be a little bit disappointing. So I'll have some video from that. I also have my trip down to McMinnville and back. I have a lot of video from that I can still break into 15 to 20 minute video segments that hopefully won't be too boring to folks. So I can do that, and I have obviously more cherry drying. I would like to put the 360 camera on the tail for a video during cherry drying. I think that would be really cool. So that's on my list of things to do. There's 20% chance of rain tomorrow, so I wouldn't count on it, but it's possible to do that for another video shot. I'm trying to think of what else. If I do 0 more cherry drying flying, I will definitely try to get in at least a couple more pleasure flights just to get some video for you folks. Again, thanking you for being channel supporters. Even if you just are a subscriber and you tell your friends, that's a huge thing for me. I had a video go viral, a video of me flying from my house to the airport. It's a 5-minute video, and it went viral. It's got over 10 million views. If I can get another viral video, that is a way good thing, because that, having a video with 5 or 10,000 views is nice, but the ones that actually make money are the viral ones. So tell your friends and say how cool it is, and maybe they'll agree and tell their friends, and so on, and we'll get another viral one. I thought for sure some of those 360 ones had a shot, but apparently not. So there you go. So I'm going to go look through the new comments on here, and then I'll probably call it quits. Let's see. Can I fly into St. Helens? Into it would probably get me in trouble. I could fly to it, I could fly around it. Yeah, I could fly, and I've been around St. Helens. Jim wants to see me do a pre-flight. Going back to St. Helens, St. Helens is not close to here. St. Helens is a good hour, at least an hour from here. So that's another thing. The reason I don't just go over there and do it is it's really not that close. Every time I'm in that area, I've either got crappy weather or I'm in a hurry. So I have not done, there's a couple of videos where you could see St. Helens, but I'm not really up to it. And I really should do that. And again, I think that when I come back from Overhaul, I'll probably do a grand tour on the way back from Overhaul, and we'll get some really good stuff. Jim N wants me to do a pre-flight. I would like to do a pre-flight video. What I need is somebody, a helper, to point the camera in the right direction. So that's what I need to do, is find somebody who's got decent camera skills to help me. And then I've got a wireless mic where I can walk around and talk, and so the audio will be good. It won't rely on me looking right at the camera. And if I can do that, because if I just put the camera on a tripod for a pre-flight, I'm gonna have to keep moving the camera, and it's gonna get old really fast. So the mechanics about helicopters are pretty interesting, and I could get more about that. I have one about oil changes, which is really not that interesting. But I can't do my own maintenance. I can add oil. I think I'm allowed to change my oil, but not the filter. You know, so I don't do any of that stuff. I'd rather have a mechanic do it because they know stuff better than me. What kind of cameras do I use? Warren wants to know. I am a lazy bones, and I've got an iPhone 8 Plus. That's what I'm pointing at right now. And it's a long story why I have that camera. That's not my daily camera. I use an iPhone XS for day-to-day stuff. So those are my main cameras when I'm not shooting in the helicopter. When I'm shooting in the helicopter, it's a GoPro. Mostly 2 GoPro 7s and a 3 and a 3 Plus, and then that Fusion. Let's see. How's the airspace up in the Channel Islands? I don't think are you talking to me? Because it's not the Channel Islands here. You're talking about the San Juan Islands, I think. I would love to do some stuff up there. Again, it's an after overhaul thing. Warren, I did do a video about the cameras. I could probably do another one. I did actually 2 videos about my audio video setup, and I could probably do another one. So that would be probably pretty good. I would love to do more Nick on the Rocks. However, again, if I'm only getting 2,000 views on a video, it's not, unless somebody's willing to pay for the flight, it's not worth it. One of the things I suggested was to have a passenger pay for the flight, put Nick in the front or the back, have the passenger sit in the front or the back, whatever, and me video Nick doing a tour for a specific person. The thing to keep in mind is that Nick is a really big guy, so I don't know if he would fit in the back, so that means he'd probably have to sit in the front. He barely fits in the front. So I could only take probably 1 passenger if I had Nick on board too, unless I were to happen to lose 50 pounds, which I would love to do. So, that's just, it all comes down to the money. And if I'm doing, I've got 7 Nick on the Rocks videos, and, how they go, how they do, it really determines if I do more. Let's see, Marco wants to know about the Bose headset and fix the 1-channel comms. Okay, so let me talk about the one channel problem. In order to get the audio out of my intercom system and into the GoPro, I need a special cable, and that cable's created by a company called N-Flight Cam. The cable uses parts that are created by N-Flight Cam plus a part that they get from GoPro. Apparently, according to the N-Flight Cam people, the problem is the part that they get from GoPro. It only records onto 1 channel. So there is nothing I can do to get the cockpit audio directly from the intercom into the into the GoPro without it recording just on one channel. So my only solution for that, and some videos, first of all, in the early videos, I didn't even know it was doing it. And then in the later videos, some of them I forgot to do it, is I have to take the video, the audio channel from the video, and I have to compress it down to mono versus stereo. That's the only way to get around it. And then the sound from the engine that comes from the other helicopter, the other camera, that is stereo, but it's just a droning sound. So, and that's the only way I can get around that. It's got nothing to do with the Bose headsets or anything like that. The charter flights, my charter flight rates are $5.95 an hour, and that is 1 person, 2 person, or 3 person. It's the same price. I don't charge by the person. Yeah, Oscar wants to say, show how to read a sectional chart. I could talk about sectional charts a little bit. Keith wants to know if I have the same pilots return every year for cherry drying. Where do I find them? I try to get the same pilots every year. This year I got 1 pilot to come back. This guy comes every single year. And the other guys did, for whatever reason, they didn't want to come back. I start putting out notices on Twitter and other places that I'm looking for pilots. I start following up with people who flew in previous years. Flight schools is a good source. A lot of times they'll send up a CFI. The CFI will fly up with a pilot that pays the cost of getting the helicopter up here. The CFI will stay for 4, 5, 6 weeks, whatever it is. And then does the cherry drying work, and then flies back with another student to cover the cost of getting the helicopter up here. The 1 pilot I've got this year is up from the Salt Lake area, and the other 3 pilots are from the Los Angeles area. If anyone is interested in flying to Los Angeles from Wenatchee, Washington, at a much reduced cost, not free, but much reduced cost, especially if you're a pilot already, a helicopter pilot, because I think they need a 135 certificate to fly you as a passenger, which they don't always have. Get in touch, and I will put you in touch with the 2 pilots. They're both going back, probably in about 2 weeks. Let's see, I answered that question already. Okay, good video. We're getting down to the right now. We're overtime now, so. Birds are not much of a problem, Aaron. Not the birds that I've been hitting. Hit a big bird, that's a problem. Let's see, everyone who likes my work, thank you very much. Thanks for the thanks. Thanks for the thanks. The South Jersey Sound is mentioning talk about crashing. It does need to be talked about, and it's not only just for me to straighten out my head, but or you to straighten out your head after your crash, but it's to educate other pilots, to show them how freaking easy it is to crash. And when you talk about somebody else, you will trigger something in their brain that might save their life one day. So that's why I talk about it. Okay, topic, go through my most memorable flights and landings. Yeah, I could do that. I'll go through actually I'm working on a memoir, and it's in there. I should finish it, maybe that'll fund my overhaul. Gotta sell a lot of books. The cherry season is a tiny bit drier than usual. Not the driest I've ever had though. Let's see, okay, I'm gonna try to get in here. A video on how I got started in helicopters, that's also in the book. I'm gonna need to get up there and finish getting up to my office and finish writing that book. I'm about a quarter of the way through it. So I've got 20 years to cover. Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything. No spoilers. Oh boy, everybody's okay. Do I use ForeFlight? Yes. The video of the Yui, I'm going to get I was just having dinner with that pilot 2 days ago. I'm going to get a video of the startup without the sound cutting out in the middle, or, I'm going to get the sound dialed in right. And do a startup video on the Yui, and using the camera and showing the instruments and having his voice explain exactly what's going on. That's going to be a good one. And there's also a K-Max in the area, and the guy that flies the Yui knows the guy that flies the K-Max. And I'm hoping that I can get an intro and do something on that K-Max, because it's parked a mile from my house. I don't have any videos of the Grand Canyon, sorry. I flew there back in 2004, well before I started using video cameras. Okay, so I want to thank everybody who showed up. Thank you for coming. Thank you for sticking around this long, those of you who did. If you missed anything, if you had to leave early, whatever, you can watch it in the broadcast. It'll probably be ready within the next 15 minutes. I will try to get those links that I promised online in the description today. If I forget one, you can use the comments to remind me, because I forget everything now. I'll keep in mind all your comments about suggestions of what to do, and I will keep making videos, and you guys motivate me, especially the channel members, the Patreon patrons, the folks who buy shirts and hats. You will not be disappointed with those shirts and hats. They are really nice. Except I would really like extra large people to stop ordering. I would like some medium people to order, and even large people, because I'm running out of extra large shirts. And I have 2X also though. What else? Channel donations. If you like jewelry, go check out my jewelry that I make. You know, I'm just a girl trying to earn a living here, and pay for a helicopter. So thanks for tuning in, and I appreciate you all. And now I'm going to fumble with the camera to try to turn it off, so you can watch me fumble. Here we go. Oh, I don't even know how to do this. Wait, I think it's that. Okay, yes, and